Before I begin, I just want to talk about my CUNY experience. I began at BMCC. I transferred then to Kingsborough to complete my associate degree. Then, as many of you know, I did my BA at Queens College. And I taught at the College of Staten Island, New York Tech, Medgar Evers, and Lehman. All right, it's not true. I just wanted to get as much applause as I possibly could. All right, so let me talk about some things that are true, now that I've got your attention. I am tortured in my life by being reflective. I think about my life all the time, think about, everyone around me always knows, when they do a speech or a meeting, I always say to people, what could I have done better? I always want to do it better, and I know I can never get it right. And one of the things I'm particularly reflective of is, in my life, I'm born into a family where both my parents are recent immigrants. Nobody spoke English. My father dies when I'm 12. I get raised by a single mom who doesn't work, and we live on Social Security survivor's benefit. And then the question is, how does that kid with very little prospects end up being the executive vice chancellor of this great university and working for 3 mayors and being a commissioner of 2 agencies and running Bellevue and doing lots of things? How does that happen? Because if I can figure out how that happens, I will do my job much better and try to have that happen for more people at this university. So there were kind of 3 things that came to mind. Somebody had sent me a picture a couple of years ago of me at 18. And I look at that kid, and he's got a huge afro. I used to get in the subway, and people would hand me their wallets, just like, don't hurt me. And he had a big beard. And the only person he'd ever met in his life that had gone to college was his doctor. None of his friends' parents went to college, and at 18, almost all his friends had dropped out of high school. He's got a cigarette pack in his arm with it rolled up. And the answer that came back to me was Queens College. That there was a place in this great university who would take me non-matric at night, but would take a chance on me. And that was one. And then when I got there, I was kind of stunned, having been to say I was a mediocre student in high school would really be being kind, even untruthful. I was much worse than that. But when I got to college, I loved it. I just absolutely loved it. High school was people telling me facts and asking me to repeat them. And college was people asking me what I think. Very, very different. And I loved it. I had a 4.0 index in college. I thought it was just great. But my senior year, I saw this ad for something called the Action Program. It was a program that said I could go, work in an agency doing something worthwhile. And truth, I'd get credit for it. I'd get paid for it. It was like perfect. So I jumped right on it. Does this program sound familiar at all? And, it was one of the great experiences of my life. They sent me off to Brownsville and Canarsie, and I ran therapy groups, and I worked with families, and it was just one of the great learning experiences of my life. But that was really the transitional moment for me. I needed something to get from hanging out in a street corner to where I am today. And it was really that experience. And if Queens hadn't provided it, I wouldn't be here, now. So, when we had the opportunity, Chancellor Goldstein had asked us to put something together in the wake of Hurricane Sandy, and what came to mind was that experience I had, in the hope that there would be thousands of people who would get to have this same experience. And it was a great transition. I didn't know anything about the world of work. I kind of had to figure everything out. I remember people, dressed, and, I would just buy clothes, and everything would be wrong. I'd buy a suit and a tie, and I'd look at it, and it wouldn't go together. So I had to buy a book, how to dress. And it's very simple. I read the first line. It said, for business, never wear any clothes where you have to use ish to describe the color. So I'd stop buying bluish, greenish suits, and, after that, it was okay. So I'll tell you a secret you probably don't know. What universities do is they place bets on students. Harvard, Yale, Princeton, us, everybody does that. They look at applications. What they're really doing is making bets. They're betting that the students they admit will go on to do good things. It brings credit to the university. It brings money because we always want, your graduates to come back and give you money. And that's what they're really doing. They're placing these bets. So what are the bets that CUNY places? 40% of our students are foreign born. They were not born in the United States. And the vast majority of our students come from families where their parents didn't go to college. I mean, how many people in this room had parents who didn't go to college? So those are the bets we're making. And you may wonder, how it turns out. So I'm going to ask you, as a favor, to try to just always remember the next two statistics I'm going to give you. Because probably on some level you figure, well, it probably works out a lot better at Harvard if your parents have $100 million and can name a building, and that's how you get in. But let's take a look at it. City College, not CUNY, one of the 24 colleges, City College, has more Nobel Prize winners than any public university in the entire world. Standard & Poor's, second. Standard & Poor's did a survey every year until 1998 when they stopped for their own reasons of the top 240,000 CEOs in the United States. Every year they did it, Yale came in second. What university do you think was first? All right, who said Harvard? All right, it's good you listened to me speak then, because you're wrong. So Yale was second. Every year they did the survey, the answer was the City University of New York. Every year. Now that seems illogical. It seems like you have a better chance of success if your parents had a lot of money and they had, one was a doctor, one was a lawyer. You think they had a better chance. But they don't. Funny thing happens in this country. That's why I like this country, actually. Despite all its problems, I really like it. When you look at cohort analysis, every generation does worse. The best generations in terms of how they perform in this country are immigrants and the first generation after that. And then every generation after that slides down, and then they get replenished by immigrants and first generation. Now, my own theory is it's because every parent puts a curse on their child. They say to their child, I don't want you to have to struggle like I did. And they don't. Immigrants and first generation do. Some wonderful students from City College were helping. They started a little business. They went out to Stanford, and I had lunch with them because they're going to China now to live for a couple of years. Chinese government's invested millions of dollars in their idea. And they said when they're out in California, the venture capitalists try to steal their percentages of the business, their equity. And they would, just give them no money, and that's how they do it. And they said, they don't understand. We're not just regular poor, we're immigrant poor. We just all decided we'd eat one meal a day. And they did. And now they're going to have millions of dollars. That's the CUNY story. So part of what this program is, it's not all selfish, is we're making a bet on all of you. And we were very careful. You had to have a certain GPA, you had to have so many credits, you couldn't have any remediation. We wanted to make good bets. Because you're doing two things. One, this is going to really help you succeed. And then you want you to give back money. That part wasn't a joke. But just as importantly, you're a representative to each one of the places you work in forever. You do a bad job, that place you're working will never hire another CUNY student, ever. You do a great job, and for the next 100 years, every CUNY student who comes to that employer, they will picture you and say, oh, that's like Ann, or that's like Bob. From CUNY, they were great, and I know this person will be great. So you have that burden forever now as being part of the CUNY Service Corps. And, on this weekend of the Kentucky Derby, I am absolutely sure we made a great bet on all of you. Thank you.